Hello everyone, viewers. We often think we know the monsters of our oldest stories. We picture them in the dark, lurking, waiting, creatures of pure chaos, born of malice. But what if the most terrifying monster in the biblical world was not born of darkness at all? What if it was forged in divine light? A masterpiece of creation so magnificent, so powerful, that its very existence was a testament to God's. The Bible asks a chilling question, a challenge thrown down from the heavens. Can you draw out Leviathan with a hook? The implication is clear. This is no ordinary beast. This is a force beyond human comprehension. The story you think you know of a simple sea serpent is just the surface of a cold, bottomless ocean of truth. Today, we journey into that abyss to uncover a story of how one of God's most glorious creations became the eternal symbol of the one sin that poisons the soul from within, envy in the beginning. Before the dust of Adam was shaped, before the garden was planted, there was a world of raw, untamed power. The Almighty had spoken existence into being, but it was a chaotic symphony. The heavens were vast and silent. The earth was a formless mass of soil. In this primordial era, God did not just create light and land. He created living embodiments of his power, titanic beings to govern and stabilize the very elements of his new creation. They were the first kings and queens of the earth, long before humanity ever walked upon it. For the sprawling land masses, a symphony of mountains and plains, he sculpted the behemoth. A creature of such colossal scale, its bones were tubes of bronze, its limbs like bars of iron. It was the anchor of the physical world, the unshakable foundation of the earth. For the boundless skies, for the swirling vortex of winds and clouds, he wove from starlight and storm the great Ziz. A griffin, like bird of such impossible size that when it stood upon the earth, its head touched the heavens, and when it unfurled its wings, the Ziz was the master of the air, the silent guardian of the celestial expanse, its cry the sound of the wind itself. Behemoth, the master of the earth, Ziz, the master of the sky, but the waters, the great and terrible abyss, the primordial sea that held the secrets of creation and the potential for utter chaos. That domain required a ruler of unparalleled might and terror, and so from the deepest dark, it was an act of cosmic power, a forging of life in the crucible of the abyss. God took the pressure that could crush stars and wove it into scales, each one a shield, locked so tightly that no air could pass between them. He took the burning core of the world and placed it in its belly, so that its breath could kindle coals and flames would erupt from its mouth. He took the first light of dawn, the very moment darkness gives way to day. Its heart was as hard as a stone, as unyielding as a millstone. When it rose, even the mighty were afraid. The celestial beings, the first angels, would gaze down and feel a tremor of awe and fear. This was not merely an animal. This was a living force of nature, a sentient ocean of power, the undisputed sovereign of the abyss. Its purpose was as profound as its form. Leviathan was the great guard in the deepest trenches where light had never touched, were secrets and powers that God himself had sealed away. Leviathan was the warden of this prison. It patrolled the depths, its massive form a living wall against the horrors of the void. It was God's living weapon, a deterrent against any force, celestial or otherwise, that might seek to unravel creation from its watery foundations. And in the book of Psalms, the Almighty, after crafting this terrifying engine of destruction, this guardian of cosmic secrets, also delighted in it. He saw it not just as a tool, but as a wonder, a majestic creature swimming in the vastness he had made for it. For a time, an age perhaps, there was a perfect, terrifying balance. Behemoth on the land, Ziz in the sky, and Leviathan in the sea, three pillars of creation. Leviathan knew nothing but the cold, crushing pressure of the deep, the silent darkness, and the occasional approving gaze of its creator. It knew its power, its purpose, and its place. It was magnificent. It was perfect, and that perfection, that singular, unchallenged glory, would become the very seed of its cataclysmic fall. While Leviathan patrolled the silent abyss, in heaven there was another of God's perfect creations, Lucifer, the light bringer, the morning star, the most beautiful and powerful of all the angelic host. He was second only to the Creator himself, bathed in wisdom and glory. But the creation of a new being, a fragile, curious creature named man, stirred something in Lucifer's perfect heart. God declared that this being, made from clay and divine breath, would to Lucifer. This was an insult, a cosmic absurdity. How could he, a being of pure light and fire, be expected to bow to a creature of mud? A quiet resentment began to smolder within him, a resentment that would soon erupt into a celestial firestorm. His pride, his defining characteristic, began to curdle into the universe's first and most potent sin. Envy. Lucifer looked upon humanity. He saw their potential, their unique relationship with the Creator, and he saw it as a theft of his own rightful glory. He began to whisper words of dissent among the angelic choirs, planting seeds of doubt and pride. A third of the stars of heaven were swayed by his charisma, his logic, his promise of a self-determined glory, free from the perceived tyranny of serving lesser beings. Heaven was on the brink of sin. He needed allies, and not just from the angelic ranks. He needed to destabilize the very foundations of God's creation. He needed to turn the pillars against the architect. His gaze fell from the heavens past the land of Behemoth and down into the crushing eternal darkness of the sea. He looked upon Leviathan. He did not approach the great sea dragon as a tempter offering power. How do you tempt a being that it... No, Lucifer approached Leviathan with something far more insidious, more potent. An idea, a single poisonous thought whispered into the ancient sentient mind of the great beast. The fallen angel descended, not in a storm of fire, but as a subtle current, a change in the water's pressure, a voice that echoed not in ears, but in the soul. Great Leviathan, the whisper began. Your power is absolute, your form, a thing of terror and beauty. The Creator himself delights in you, but have you ever wondered why you are here, while they are up there? Leviathan, who had never known a voice other than God's command, was stirred from its timeless patrol. The question was a foreign concept. Its purpose was its existence, but the whisper continued, dripping like acid. You are a guardian, these fragile, fleeting things of dust. He has given them the land, the sun, the moon. He has given them free will. He has given them love. He has given them dominion. Soon their little wooden ships will bob on your surface. They will claim your world as their own, and you will remain here, in the dark, forgotten, a relic of a wilder time, a tool whose purpose has been served. For the first time, the whisper had found a crack in its stone-hard heart. It had only ever known the pride of its own unique existence. Now it was being forced to compare. It thought of the light, the warmth of the sun it only ever saw in shimmering patterns on the surface. It thought of the laughter and life on the land above, a world it was barred from. It saw God's attention. Once a source of its pride, now being divided, lavished upon these. You are a king without a crown, a god without worshippers. They are weak, and yet they are elevated above you. Is this justice, or is it a betrayal? And with that, the seed was planted. The great Leviathan, the pillar of the waters, began to look at its own magnificence, not with pride, but with a bitter sense of lack. A monstrous, all-consuming envy began to uncoil in the abyss of its soul. If you are finding this journey into the dark myths of creation as fascinating as I am, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We're going deeper into the abyss, and you won't want to miss what happens when a force of nature declares war on its own creator. By supporting the channel, you help us continue to unearth these incredible stories. Now, back to the churning seas. The transformation was not instantaneous. Its patrol of the deep became restless, agitated. The calm, powerful movements were replaced by violent thrashing. It no longer guarded the abyss. It raged against its watery cage. For the first time, the primordial oceans became chaotic. Massive whirlpools, capable of swallowing mountains, spun into existence without cause. Tsunamis, waves that scraped the clouds, battered the shores of the newly formed continents, flooding the work of the Creator in saltwater and destruction. Earthquakes shuddered from the sea floor as the great beast railed against the bed of its own prison. It was a tantrum of cosmic proportions. Leviathan was not just attacking the world, it was attacking its own purpose. It was screaming into the void, "Do not discard me for your new favorites." Up in the heavens, the rebellion of Lucifer had erupted into open war. Michael and his legions clashed with the fallen angels in a war of light and shadow. But the chaos on earth, stemming from the poisoned heart of Leviathan, was a second, equally devastating front. God looked down, and his heart, if a divine being can be said to have one, was filled with a profound sorrow. This was a corruption of something he had made to be glorious. It was a tragedy. He had to intervene. He descended from the highest heavens, not as a wrathful judge, but as a heartbroken creator confronting his own masterpiece. His voice boomed across the waters, not with anger, but with a deep, resonant sadness that calmed the raging seas for a moment. Leviathan, why do you rage against the world I have made? Its colossal head, larger than any mountain, breached the surface. Its eyes, once like the calm dawn, now burned with the fires of jealousy. And it spoke, its voice the grinding of continents, the roar of a billion waterfalls. You gave them the sun, you gave them dominion, you call them your children. What am I to you? A toy, a gatekeeper? My power is greater than 1,000 of them combined, yet you raised. God looked at the magnificent, terrible creature before him, and he did not smite it. Instead, he began to speak, and his words were not a condemnation, but a final powerful reminder of what Leviathan was, and what it had lost sight of. The words he spoke would later be recorded in the Book of Job, a divine monologue of awesome power. Who is this that darkens my counsel with words without knowledge? Brace yourself. God began to list Leviathan's glories, not as a boast, but as a mirror, forcing the beast to see itself through the eyes of its creator. Can you pull in Leviathan with a fishhook or tie down its tongue with a rope? Can you put a cord through its nose or pierce its jaw with a hook? Will it keep begging you for mercy? Will it speak to you with gentle words? Who can strip off its outer coat? Who can penetrate its double coat of armor? With every question, God was dismantling Leviathan's envy-fueled argument. He was reminding it of its unique, incomparable power. You are not human. You are not an angel. You are Leviathan, say, a category unto yourself. A being so powerful no one but I can stand against you. Its back has rows of shields tightly sealed together. Each is so close to the next that no air can pass between. They are joined fast to one. Firebrands stream from its mouth, sparks of fire shoot out, smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot over burning reeds. Its breath sets coals ablaze, and flames dart from its mouth. This was not a battle of swords or lightning bolts. It was a battle of wills, a theological showdown between creator and creation. God's final words were not a threat, but a statement of cosmic fact. In that moment, the tragedy was complete. God was telling Leviathan that it was already a king. It ruled the proud, the untamable things of the world. But in its envy of another's kingdom, it had forsaken its own. Leviathan had no answer. It could not refute the truth of its own nature. But the poison of envy had taken too deep a root. It had tasted the bitterness of comparison, and it could no longer say, but how can a wave charge the ocean? How can a creature charge its own creator? God raised a hand, and the primordial waters themselves turned against their king. The sea became chains of liquid pressure, binding Leviathan's massive limbs. The cold of the abyss, once its home, now seeped into its fiery heart, quenching its rage with an eternal binding chill. It was not killed. Instead, it was defeated, bound, and imprisoned in the deepest trench of the ocean, a place so deep and so dark that no light, not even its own, could escape. Its physical form was chained to the bottom of the world, but its spirit, its will, now forever defined by the sin that had consumed it, was cast out. It fell from its status as a pillar of creation and was given a new, terrible title in the burgeoning hut. The great guardian of the deep had become a prisoner of its own jealousy, its magnificent roar silenced, replaced by the eternal seething whisper of what it once was and what it had lost. The age of primordial titans was over. Behemoth and Ziz, seeing the fate of their sibling, retreated into the annals of myth, their purpose fulfilled and their power checked. The world was now fully given over. Though its body was imprisoned, its influence began to bleed into the world, a spiritual poison seeping up from the depths as humanity grew. So did the capacity for sin, and Leviathan found a new ocean to swim in, the human heart. It became the demon prince of envy, one of the 7 crowned heads of hell, each representing one of the deadly sins. Asmodeus for lust, Beelzebub for gluttony, Mammon for greed, Belphegor for sloth, Satan for wrath, Lucifer for pride, and Leviathan, the fallen sea king, for envy. Its method of temptation is the most insidious of all. It does not possess people with shrieking fits or supernatural strength. Leviathan's corruption is a quiet, cold, creeping thing. It is the whisper, it is the bitterness you feel when you see someone with what you believe you deserve. It is the joyless comparison, the endless scrolling through the curated lives of others, feeling your own life diminish in value with every glance. Leviathan teaches us to hate the light in others because we feel it exposes the darkness in ourselves. It turns admiration into resentment and ambition into a destructive desire to see others fail. In demonology, Leviathan is classified as a seraph who, alongside Lucifer, fell from grace. The famed exorcist Father Gabriele Morth noted that during exorcisms, the demon of envy is often the most difficult to expel, as it entwines itself so deeply with the victim's own insecurities and ego. It convinces the soul that its bitterness is justified, that its jealousy is... Throughout history, the echo of Leviathan's rage has surfaced. Every culture that lives by the sea has a story of a great monster lurking in the depths. The Norse spoke of Japhe Mungandra, the world serpent, so large it encircled the entire world. The Greeks told tales of the Hydra and Cetus. These myths, perhaps, are the fragmented psychic memories of humanity, a subconscious understanding that they are folkloric echoes of the one true king of the sea, imprisoned and raging against his chains. But the story does not end with Leviathan chained in the dark, whispering poison into the hearts of men. There is a prophecy, a final terrifying chapter yet to be written. The Abrahamic faiths speak of an end of days, an apocalypse where the seals are broken and the old powers are unleashed one last time for a final battle. And the great sea monster will rise from the abyss one last time, its colossal form blocking out the sun, its roar of millennia, old fury finally uncaged. It will bring with it the chaos of the primordial ocean, a final cataclysmic storm to swallow the world. And on that day, according to the prophecies, God will finally do what he could not bring himself to do at the dawn of creation. He will take up his great and strong sword, and in a final bizarre and deeply symbolic act, it is said that the flesh of the slain Leviathan will be served as a feast for the righteous. At the end of time, the creature whose envy sought to unravel creation will, in its final moments, become sustenance for the saved. Its body, once a vessel of cosmic rage, will finally be integrated back into the divine plan, its purpose fulfilled in the most from God's playful masterpiece to the demon of envy, and finally to the main course at the apocalyptic banquet. The Ark of Leviathan is a testament to the idea that in the grand cosmic narrative, nothing, not even the most terrifying of monsters, is wasted. So what do we take from this epic of a fallen titan? The story of Leviathan is more than just a myth about a sea monster. It is a profound allegory. Leviathan was a being of unmatched power and unique glory. It had a kingdom, a purpose, and the admiration of its own creator. It had everything it was ever meant to be, and it was all destroyed by a single simple act. It compared itself to someone else. It looked away from its own magnificence and coveted the blessings of another. And in that moment its paradise became a prison. Its pride became poison, whether it's our talents, our families, our personal journeys. But we look at our neighbor's career, our friend's relationship, the curated perfection on a stranger's social media feed, and we feel that cold, coiling thing in our gut, the whisper of Leviathan. Why them and not me? That whisper turns our blessings into burdens. It makes us feel poor in the midst of plenty. It convinces the only way to defeat the monster of envy is to stop feeding it. It's to practice the radical act of celebrating our own, God-given uniqueness. It is to look at our own lives, our own abilities, our own journey, and see it as God saw Leviathan in the beginning. A masterpiece, flawed perhaps, but unique and magnificent in its own right. Defeating envy isn't about getting what others have. It's about wanting what you already. It's about embracing your own nature so fully that the blessings of others no longer threaten you, but instead become something you can genuinely celebrate. The deep, dark ocean of comparison is where the monster of envy lives. Stay in the light of your own unique worth. That is where you will find peace. That is how you keep the great Leviathan chained in the abyss where it belongs. Alright, that is all for today's video. If you like this deep dive, it truly helps the channel grow and allows us to bring more stories like this to you. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.